everyone, and thank you all so much for joining us on our weekly Friday webinar. Today we are here to discuss the N400 interview preparation and tips. I am joined by our awesome managing attorney, Ruby Powers. And just a few things on Ms. Powers. She has been licensed since 2008. She founded her firm back in 2009, and she is also one of the few board-certified immigration and nationality attorneys. Attorney Powers, do you want to take it away?
Yes. So we chose this topic because I've been at a lot of N400 interviews, naturalization interviews, and whether you file on your own and you want to hire us to prep you or attend, or you want to just go on to the interview on your own, or you've hired us from the beginning and you're watching this and just getting prepared in advance for your interview, this can be very helpful. And so we wanted to go over what to expect in the naturalization interview and how to be best prepared. So, naturalization is the process where one becomes a U.S. citizen for those individuals who were not born here or didn't acquire or derive citizenship through some other means. And so generally what happens is you have legal permanent residency, LPR, green card, lots of different names for it. And then you have to wait the 3 years based off of marriage and living with U.S. citizen, or 5 years for every other reason until you can apply for naturalization. Now, we're not going over all the requirements in terms of being eligible. We're just really talking more about how to be prepared for that interview. And so the N400 is the application. Over the years, it's gotten a lot bigger. I don't know how many pages it is. It's like almost 14, 18 pages nowadays. They ask lots of questions. Sometimes you feel like, didn't you ask that already? But they're really trying to do screening. And this is one thing I once heard, and I think it's so true. This is the last chance for them to find out if they ever made a mistake. When I talked about they, I mean USCIS, on giving you your green card in the first place. And so this is something that they take it very seriously to review. So if you have any problems whatsoever in your past, from having gotten your green card to having got anywhere along the way, I would definitely, at a super duper minimum, having a consultation just to review your eligibility. Especially even if you had filed on already and you're getting closer to being scheduled for an interview. So you can't become a citizen through naturalization unless you have an interview. And if you're approved, then you still have to go do the oath. So interview and testing is one of the necessary steps to completing that process. All right. So one thing that's really important is you need to review the application. When you're in, first the officer is going to, generally what's going to happen, and this can be in different orders. In the Houston office, what they usually do, and a lot of offices do this, is they do the test part first, actually. And so, because if you're disqualified from that, then they won't need to move on to the next part. So generally what happens is you go in and you check in, and then some offices make you do a fingerprints and a photo in the lobby. Sometimes they do that with the officer, so it sort of depends. And after you take an oath when you go in with the officer, then in most cases they'll go over the test taking portion. That is where you have to get 6 out of 10 questions correct. So if you end up answering 7, it's because one of those other ones you got wrong. But you need to get 60% of them correct. And we're using the test that was not the expanded one that Trump was trying to expand. That was reversed. It's the one that there's 10 questions and you have to get 60% correct. So just know that there was a time somewhere in 2020 where people were concerned about that change, and it was reversed in 2021. Okay, so, but the biggest part is that you want to study. You want to make sure you know the answers to those questions, because the officer is going to ask them very quickly and you need to answer. And then they're going to have you read a sentence in English and write a sentence in English. And they're usually using the little iPad, and you use it with a stylus, and then you go over there and you write it down and you read it there. Now, I want to say that sometimes, because I've been in so many of these interviews, especially during COVID, between the plexiglass in between you and the officer and the masks everyone's wearing, and people maybe not speaking in their first language, there can be some miscommunication. So it's very important to be patient, to enunciate and be clear enough for an officer to hear you. And so that's just really good advice. So let's say you've walked in, you've gone through security, you've checked into the office, you've done your fingerprints and photo to verify you are who you say you are. You then are going in with the officer and you've done your oath, and then you go do your exam and you do the civics part, and then you read and write in English. And then in most cases, you go to the next part, which is going over the application. So they've already, in many cases, digitalized this. And so if there's any edits, they will have you review on the iPad to verify them and sign that it's that you've made those changes. But really, after you do the civics and the English aspect, and you're really going through the application. So it's not all the pre-work has already been done. You need to make sure that you have the right answers. And if you need to correct anything, this is your opportunity to correct it. If you've moved, you've changed jobs, if someone in your family's changed status, this is the time. If you did a travel since you've last submitted this is the time to update it. So making sure that you've gone through your application before you go to your interview is super important, so that you're not looking at this for the first time in maybe 6 or 12 months. Now, if anything has changed, you need to make sure you tell that officer. And if it's something that's super important, like marital status, something along those lines, then you need to bring that documentation to establish that. So like if you got a divorce since you last filed this, then you need to bring the divorce decree. If you got married, you want to bring the marriage license and certificate. So those are very important. Now, this is also your chance to legally change your name. If you want to change, if you've changed it while it's pending. But one of the very first questions it asks at the beginning of the application is, do you want to change your name? What would you like it to be? In fact, there's the question, what's your legal name? What's the name on your green card? And what do you want your name to be? And there's also, what have your names been? So there's like lots of names questions, right? A lot of times people, when I ask my clients about this, they're like, I don't know what I want to change my name to. It's a big deal, right? If you want to change your name. But some people want to drop a middle name or drop one of their two last names, surnames. Some people want to change the spelling. You could really call yourself, Purple Flower if you really wanted to. You could completely make up something completely different that has nothing to do with what you've been called in the past. But this is something that's very important, because once you do your oath, you are doing it with a judge. And so that's how your name change could be legally done if you want to. You don't have to at all, actually. But I would suggest that if you had any inkling or wanting to do it at this juncture, because then you will have a pretty little naturalization certificate that you can use to change all the rest of your documents. And it will make it a lot easier, including when you're applying for a US passport. Now, I generally like to have, if you're using the 3-year rule, 3 years of taxes. If you're using the 5-year rule, 5 years of taxes, just to show good moral character and establish that you've been truly here in the United States when you said you were. There's a way that you can go on the IRS website to get the transcripts. I actually did it recently for something for my own, and it was actually pretty simple. And so it's a nice place to go get your proof, a summary of what you've done. And so we often are telling our clients to go get that. Right now, as recording in February 2021, taxes have not been done. But after a certain point, after April 15th of 2022, your 2021 taxes need to have been filed unless you got an extension. And so you would want to bring proof of your most recent taxes, either 3 or 5 years, just to be extra safe. Now, we talked about the tests already, but this is just an added importance. If you, the materials, okay, let's go back for a second. If you're conducting the interview in English because you didn't meet any of the exceptions to do it in another language, then you need to make sure you can do the civics test and the entire interview and the English test all in English. Recently had a client file and their English was sort of in the works, let's just say, and the interview got scheduled super fast. So he thought he had going to have more time to get prepared. Not only was he going to study, but he also had to be able to conduct the interview in English. So that's another consideration. There are some chances to be exempt from having to do it in English, but you still would have to do it in your own language. So anyway, this is, make sure you study the materials. A lot of the materials are in other languages as well, but if you are not exempt from English, then you need to do it in English. You want to study those practice questions. The materials are free online. You can just, a lot of times when you do biometrics, they give you a little booklet. If you need to take a course, you can, but what I would suggest is just have your friends and family quiz you, and just like you were studying for any other test, get prepared. So you need to have 6 out of the 10 correct. And one other note is, if for some reason you don't pass this test, then you're going to need to, they'll always schedule one more time. Other than that, you would have to pay and do this all over again. So you going into this interview, you want to do the best you can and study. Okay. So if for any reason that you don't pass it in this first go, you get to rescheduled, but we don't know when you'll get rescheduled. It could be months away. And if you're trying to register to vote or petition for someone else, be a citizen and get a passport, then this is something you definitely want to study for, right? Okay, so when you go in, you want to be professional. This is a big moment. Most of my clients are so nervous. I work on trying to calm them down. But basically, it is nice to be respectful. I would say be at least business casual at a minimum. Now, back in the day, it was 30 minutes, and you should arrive before 30 minutes. But now, what they're saying is about 15 minutes. If you look at your interview notice, and mostly because of COVID. So then I say that just because of COVID. So at the Houston naturalization field office, where you do naturalization interviews, you want to go about 15 minutes early, and you show it to the officer outside the interview notice, and then they'll say, okay, you can go in, and you go through security, and you check in, and do your fingerprints and your photo, and you wait for the officer to call you in. Now, if you go too early, they might not let you in. I think they might let you in somewhere in the 20-ish minutes or so. But if you go too early and your attorney's not there, then if we're waiting for an attorney, you might not meet at the same time. So you need to be on the same page there. So anyway, be timely and bring your documents, bring your passport, bring your green card, bring your past passports, and any civil documents about marriage, divorce, bring all of those originals, certified documents, and just be respectful when you go in, be patient, be courteous, and make sure that you understand what they're saying to you, so that you are answering, because you are under oath, and this could go south. If you say something wrong that disqualifies you, and so this is, like I said, their last chance to see if you're eligible for this or not. And people have been denied, people have been put in removal proceedings afterwards. So you want to take this seriously. Now, in the interview, you'll have a pretty good idea of how things are going. And they'll usually will tell you at the very end, you either congratulations, you're approved, or recommended approval, or they might say, I need to have my supervising officer review this for whatever reason. Maybe there's a crime, maybe there's an issue that they hadn't looked over more thoroughly, and they need to have somebody sign off on it. Or they could also say, another scenario is, here's a request for evidence. I need you to go get this criminal record, or go get me this document, whatever it may be. And then they don't normally tell you you're denied on the spot. They usually just tell you your recommended approval, you're being reviewed, or here's a request for evidence. An interview normally can take maybe only 10 or 15 minutes. If you've got a clean cut, the officer reviewed everything, you're prepared, you have your documents. It might take longer if there's some misunderstanding, you're having to do some more thinking on the spot, some reviewing the application more thoroughly, or the officer wasn't really prepared. So also what I find is that you all get a receipt number, right, for your N400, and you can go on your little USCIS portal, or you can go online, and usually right that same day of the interview, they'll update it, and they'll tell you either you've been approved, or you've been scheduled for an oath, or something along those lines. And so this was a super fast, quick overview over N400 tips for your interview. And I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, we're doing TikTok videos, more webinars, we're doing whatever, to help share this information with the community. So feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Daya, how can they stay in touch? Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, so if you guys want to stay connected with us and up to date, you guys can add us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, or also subscribe to our newsletter. That information, we have that QR code there, or you can find it on our website at Ruby Powers Law. We're updating everything constantly. TikTok has a lot of good things coming out, so everybody make sure you go look at our TikTok at Powers Immigration Lawyer. Okay, and then next week on Friday, we will be discussing what is the L1 visa. There'll be a lot of good information coming out next Friday, so we hope to see you all next Friday as well.